Hey guys, wanted to make a video. I don't know how quick it's gonna be. I'm gonna try to make it quick. Uh, it's gonna be a you know what grinds my gears video. You know what really grinds my gears is all of this talk about a housing bubble in Canada. Now, why do we talk about it? We talk about a housing bubble for two reasons. Number one, we just experienced a housing bubble in the United States. It caused the 2008 financial crisis. Number two, houses are getting more expensive, particularly in urban areas like Toronto and Vancouver and a little bit of Montreal and stuff like that. And we assume that because they are getting extremely expensive and they're going up very quickly, that means it's a bubble. I want to address the first one first, which is that we experienced a housing bubble in the United States. The housing bubble in the United States was caused by, based on the research that I've done, which has been, I became weirdly obsessed before coronavirus hit. I became really weirdly obsessed with exploring major financial crises. And so I've done a fair amount of reading into this and research into this. From what I can see, there are three major factors that contributed to the housing bubble, and it was a bubble in the United States in the years leading up to 2008 financial crisis. First and foremost, you could get a house with zero down payment. So you could buy a house and you wouldn't actually need to put any money into it. This is not the case in Canada. The vast majority of people have to go with a 20% down payment, and the best you could possibly get if your credit check is really good is a 5% down payment with insurance that protects your lender. That's number one. Number two, the second thing that contributed to the United States housing bubble in 2008, inadequate credit checks. If you watch the movie The Big Short, they'll make it seem like the bond ratings agencies were totally in on it and they totally knew what they were doing. I don't know that they knew what they were doing. They thought that the housing market was very stable, and so they thought that a mortgage bond by definition is not that risky. I love The Big Short as a movie. The one issue that I have is that they make it seem like everyone is very aware of what they were doing. And I feel like much of the financial crisis was caused more by ignorance and stupidity than it was by people being evil. With the exception of people who do try and push mortgages on to people who maybe can't afford them. But that's at a lower level. It's not as institutional as I think The Big Short made it out to be. Anyway, that was a sidebar. Number three was the other one that The Big Short talks about, which is true, and that's the oversaturation of derivative products, investment products that include mortgages, the mortgage-backed securities and derivatives of mortgage-backed securities, and how complicated the whole ecosystem around the housing market going up became. In most places, the housing market in 2008 in the United States corrected not actually that much. But the entire market was so heavily levered that it didn't take a very big housing dip to cause a major financial crisis. Canada right now has nothing like this. Right now, in Toronto in particular, you can't build any more houses. It's similar to the reason why I made a video about Bitcoin yesterday, and I do think that Bitcoin carries more aspects of bubbleness than the housing market, but it shares an aspect with Bitcoin, and that is that there is a fixed supply. You can't build any more houses in Toronto. You can build up, so theoretically there are limitless amounts of condos that can be built, but if you want a house, the amount of people who live in Toronto is increasing every year. The amount of people who want to buy a house is increasing every year. And the housing supply is remaining fixed. If there is, let's go with this. If there is a dip in housing, if there is a major pullback in housing, if prices fall, I don't know why prices would fall, but let's say that prices do fall. Buyers will be there to buy those houses, to buy that dip. This will be, if there is a housing correction, and I say correction, a correction is technically defined as a 10% pullback. If there is a housing correction, that correction will be bought by all of the people on the sidelines who are waiting to buy a house. This is not the United States in 2008. This is all my opinion. I get fired up about this one because it really bugs me when news publications, I made a video about this a couple weeks ago, when news publications come up with really interesting headlines for a thing that can make you panic, which will make you watch their news program. And lately, it seems to be all about, oh, there's a housing bubble in Canada, and I don't think that is borne out by fact. The rise in Canadian housing, particularly the rise in Canadian housing in large urban areas, is driven by fundamentals. And what I mean by fundamentals is supply and demand. Fixed supply, increasing demand year after year. How many people would love to own a house in Toronto and can't afford it? As long as that dynamic exists, housing in Canada cannot collapse, in my opinion. Again, you will show me that if I'm wrong about this and housing collapse, because I could very easily be wrong about this. Housing could easily collapse in 2 years, and somebody will show me this video and I will look like a fool. Do not conduct yourself based on what I'm saying in this video. This is opinion. This is not even my area of expertise. My area of expertise is investments. But I get fired up when people come up with panic-inducing, interesting opinions, particularly surrounding something like housing, which is what a lot of people are relying on for their retirement. All right. That was 7 minutes. That's not too bad.